host, Sydney Weiss. I don't know why I just paused right there for a second. I guess I haven't done a solo episode in a long time, and I was about to say Happy Seek the Joy Tuesday, but it is definitely not Tuesday. I wanted to come on here really quickly and just say hello and check in and see how you are and see how you're feeling. These are some crazy times. I don't think I've ever lived through a quote-unquote global pandemic like we're living through right now. So no matter where you are in the world, no matter how you're feeling, I'm thinking about you and sending you a big virtual air hug, because even if we were in person, we would be keeping 6 feet apart, which is just crazy, but so important. Social distancing is so important right now, and I know I'm taking this super, super seriously. So I wanted to check in and say hello and see how you're doing, and then also share some thoughts that I've had about all of this, and then also share sort of my tips, I guess you could say, about just really staying grounded and connected to who you are and connected to your body and everything else in between in the midst of really a global crisis. So I know we have listeners all over the world. So whether you're in Italy, Australia, China, Tokyo, the United States, Canada, I mean, the list goes on. I know everyone is in a different stage and a different phase of this as of, well, I'm recording right now, it's March 15th. So I just want you to know you're loved and you're supported. And if you ever need anything, whether that's a friendly ear or you want to drop into our DMs or email, just let me know how you're doing. I think at a time like this, what is most important is threefold. One, just being kind to yourself and being kind to others. And I think within that kindness comes an understanding that everyone deals with stress and anxiety differently. I mean, personally, I waver. Some days when I'm super stressed and anxious, I want to control everything around me. And other days, I can barely control my emotions. I'm all over the place. I'm all over the spectrum. And we all are. We all deal with this kind of stuff differently. So have patience and be kind with yourself and with others, and be compassionate too. And recognize that within, I think, handling stress and anxiety differently means that we are not all going to respond to this global pandemic, this coronavirus, this COVID-19 the same way. We just aren't. We're all going to emotionally handle it differently. And so what I think is the most important is looking at how all of this is making you feel. Is it making you feel stressed, anxious, scared, sad, disappointed, relieved maybe? I mean, whatever you are feeling, just remember that it's okay and it's valid. I've been seeing some things that have been kind of bothering me. A lot of posts and Instagram stories and just things all over the map, sort of discounting how people are feeling and discounting someone's anxiety or panic. And the truth is that we're all in a different place. And so I don't think it's helpful or supportive to discount someone else in that way. We have to remember that we are a community. We are a global community. So what we do on an individual scale, and this is kind of like my second point, what we do on an individual scale has a ripple effect globally. So you washing your hands, using good hygiene, sneezing into your elbow, social distancing, self-quarantining, whatever it might be, it has a ripple effect, because while you might be healthy, and I know everyone has heard this, but you might be healthy, but that doesn't mean that the person next to you is, or your grandparents, or your friend who's immunodeficient. We're all at different phases and different stages in our lives. And so just being mindful that what you do individually has an effect globally. And I think with that too, what we do individually to stay grounded, to stay healthy. And I think healthy and grounded applies both to physically, but also to emotionally and mentally and spiritually. What we do individually, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, ripples out globally as well. So I've been thinking a lot about this, about what I can personally do to stay grounded and not panic in the midst of a lot of chaos and a lot of pandemonium, because my schedule has totally shifted. I have had so many events and things cancel. I'm now officially working from home. I have no idea how long that's going to be. Getting up every day and going to the office and coming home has given me much needed structure. So I've been thinking a lot about, okay, what is working from home going to look like for me? And I asked on Instagram the other day, and so many of you had so many great tips, which I'm going to share in a moment. But I wanted to first share with you guys, I guess you could call them my tips and tricks for just staying grounded and seeking your joy during such a bizarre time. So before I get into that, I guess my biggest takeaway, my biggest message here is honor your feelings, respect your feelings, acknowledge them, and then continue to move forward too. I think we can get stuck in the overwhelm. We can get stuck in the panic and the uncertainty, but just remember that at the end of the day, you have tools. So my first tip would be get some good physical activity in. Move your body every single day. I think that physical activity is going to be key over the next 2 weeks or 2 months, whatever it might be. So if you can, and you're allowed to, go outside and take a walk and get in some fresh air, or maybe even do an at-home workout. I'm totally going to be doing dance breaks between meetings. I think that's going to be my go-to, because otherwise you're just sitting in a chair all day and you're not walking around the office or moving around. My second tip would be use affirmations. And I should add to this too, affirmations is a big part of a lot of our spiritual practices. So if you don't use affirmations, think about relying on your breath work and meditation and prayer. Whatever you use to stay grounded and positive, keep doing that. My go-to affirmation right now is I am healthy and I am safe, because I have totally talked myself into thinking a million times, oh my God, I'm going to get this, I'm vulnerable. No, I'm combating that with I am healthy and I am safe. My third tip would be get creative. This morning, my sister and I were talking about creating a list of movies that we haven't seen yet, that we've wanted to see and just felt like we didn't have time. I love this idea. You could even create like a Spotify playlist of your favorite music and add podcasts to that. You could add Seek the Joy and send it to your friends. Just think about what we used to do, right? When we were much younger, like creating mixtapes. Just get creative and give yourself something to look forward to. And I think TV shows that we haven't binge watched yet, I don't know, for me personally, that's something that I look forward to. My fourth tip would be that passion project that you've been working on or dying to start. Now is totally the time to dive in. If you're working from home, yes, you'll still have your normal work hours, but it's going to be different. So who knows what idea or inspiration will hit. Take advantage of the little extra time. My next tip would be stay connected with your friends and your family. Social distancing is so important right now, and it's something that we're all going to be practicing, but it can feel really isolating. But if we use our technology to our advantage, it doesn't have to be that isolating. It can just really be the way that we stay connected. So plan video chat calls or dates with your friends and family. Stay connected with a little face-to-face time. This is how I'm going to stay connected to my grandparents, because I'm not going to see them for a couple weeks out of just pure caution. So use technology to your advantage. Right now is a really great time to work on your own self-love and self-care. So whether that's a journaling practice or creating a self-care routine, I've been seeing so many funny posts about now is the time to try all of those face masks you've been dying to put to use. Seriously, now is the time. Whatever you like, whatever works for you, incorporate it into your routine. We all had a period of time that we were using to commute to work every day. Use that time instead to exercise or get some more self-care in, meditate, journal, whatever feels really good to you. I think it's also a really good time to get organized and get ahead on your spring cleaning. I definitely have some drawers and cabinets that could use a little love. I think I'm on my 7th tip now, but I would say my next tip has to do with getting in the kitchen. That recipe that you've been dying to try, that dish that you always love to make, but you never have the time because you're working or you're out and about. Use this time to spend a little bit more time in the kitchen. I've been spending a lot more time in the kitchen in 2020. I've been meal prepping every Sunday. because my own personal dietary restrictions have changed. So I've been making all of my food, and it's been so much fun to cook and experiment and try recipes and modify recipes. And I've actually started a new Instagram page, which you should totally check out. It's just dedicated to meal prep and my recipes that I'm making. It's Seek the Joy Eats, and I'll put it in the show notes. I can't believe I haven't even talked about it on the podcast yet, but I have just loved getting in the kitchen. So use this time to just dive in and give these things a try, and even share it on your social media. And if you do, make sure to tag me, because I would love to see it and share it, and even try your favorite recipes. I would say too, like, if there's a book that you've been dying to read, now's the time to dive in. So I think those are my tips. I think I covered everything. I guess at the end of the day, this is totally an uncertain period of time. And so my biggest piece of advice, and what I keep telling myself and my family and my friends, is just focus on what you can control. Focus on what you can control every day. And often what we can control is our mood and our attitude and how we approach different levels of uncertainty. So if it feels good to you, I so support creating an action plan. Maybe even map out what you want each day to look like. Maybe create a list of a couple of goals or things that you really want to do during this period. But above all else, just focus on staying grounded and keep your head above the chaos. And so if that means you only have a certain amount of time that you watch the news or read Twitter, I think that's really important too. And just practice good hygiene and good social distancing, and take care of yourself, and follow the words and the advice of the World Health Organization and the CDC. I also really quickly want to share with you guys some of the work from home tips that were shared with me on Instagram, because they were so good. First of all, make sure that you work regular hours. So whether that's 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, stick to it. Just because you're working from home doesn't mean that you can or should be available 24/7. If you can, create a separate office space for yourself. And then every morning when you get up, get dressed like you're going into the office. I love this tip because I think it's so tempting to stay in your pajamas all day. Personally, at work, we're going to have a lot of video chat meetings, and I don't want to be wearing my pajamas for those. So I will definitely be getting dressed every day, just like I'm going into the office. I love this next tip too, because it's about taking regular breaks. I think just because we're working from home, doesn't mean that you can or should be online all the time. So I think it's really about creating good boundaries for yourself, and connect with your coworkers, connect with other people, I think, as often as you can, whether that's through video chat or Slack or text message. For me, what's going to be so important is doing whatever I can to sort of maintain, as best I can, the same level of communication that I would have if I was still at the office. I think it'll help feel less isolating and like we're still together and part of a team. And I think, again, it's that sense of a community that's just so important. I think this last tip is probably the most important, and it's know that there will be distractions, delays, and technology might not always work. And that's okay. Working from home and having so many people work from home, I think, is something we don't normally see, at least not in the United States. And so just be patient with yourself, be patient with the technology. Mercury retrograde is over, but we're still in that post-retrograde shadow. So things are still evening out, and just be patient with yourself. So that's really all I wanted to come on here and say. Please let me know how you're doing. Let me know how you're feeling, where you are in the world. Reach out on any of our social media pages. We are at Seek the Joy Podcast everywhere, or send me an email, info@seekthejoypodcast.com. I just want to make sure you guys are all doing okay. And please let me know how we can continue to support you and how we can really continue to support one another. Before I go, I think the last thing I want to say is just always remember that you're not alone. Through every crisis or pandemic or moments of grief and also moments of joy, we're all in this together, and we're all going to see the other side of this, and we're all going to be okay. So I'm going to include all of my tips for staying grounded and seeking our joy, as well as these really awesome work from home tips in the show notes for today's episode. I'll include the link as well so you guys can check them out, and feel free to add to them and let me know what resonated. sending you guys seriously just such a big hug and a lot of strength and a lot of love. We're going to get through this. We're going to get through it together. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your family. And I'll see you back here in a couple of days for another Seek the Joy Tuesday.